Good afternoon, I'm Burrows and you're watching NTV at 1. Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani, who is also the acting National Treasury CS, held a meeting at his new office earlier today. Yatani replaces the embattled Henry Rotich, who has been charged with 8 charges, including abuse of office over the Aror and Kimarer dams scandal.
I know there's a lot of pressure at the moment in terms of resources and a number of other matters. But we are going to streamline to make sure that the priority will be given to the presidential legacy projects because it touches the nerve center of the Kenyan citizens. Quite a number of them are on very basic human requirements, and we are going to focus so that we achieve those as required.
High Court Judge Lady Justice Tripsisa Cherere has ordered for the arrest of Kisumu Governor Anyang' Nyong'o and his sister Rispa for disobeying court orders. The two, as ruled by the court, have been committed to civil jail for 1 month each after they were found in contempt of court. The governor and his sister are embroiled in a multi-million inheritance case against their nephew, Kenneth Okuthe. Okusa with the details from Kisumu. Oko, how much progress have the police made in seeking to capture the governor?
Well, those orders were just issued a while ago, and of course, as we are made to understand, is that the governor is currently attending a meeting in Nakuru, and therefore we are not sure whether they will affect those arrests at this particular time. But as I'm speaking to you now, I'm holding the actual order that was issued by Lady Justice Cherere, which states, as I'm going to read just briefly, that first and the second petitioners, who is Peter Anyang' Nyong'o and Rispa Nyogoi Nyong'o, that is his sister, have been listed here as the first and second petitioners or respondents. That the two are hereby committed to civil jail for 1 month. And 2, that a warrant of arrest has been issued against them and the same to be executed by the police, that is the county commander of Kisumu, and that a further mention is supposed to happen on 7th of October. This is civil case number 815 of 2012, where Kenneth Odhiambo Okuthe and Geoffrey Omondi Nyong'o, those are nephews of the governor, have filed a case against Nyong'o and his sister, claiming that they struck them off the list of inheritance of a multi-billion. We are talking of 200 million estate belonging to Nyong'o's father, that is Hesbon Nyong'o, who died years back. So on October 18th last year, that was 2018, the court had ordered the Nyong'o and his sister to produce books of accounts of the estate, and that did not happen. Again, during that particular time, the court ordered that the two include Kenneth and Geoffrey as part of the administrators to incorporate them as administrators of the estate, but that did not happen too, and therefore the court found them in contempt come May 30th this year, when the case was heard again, and Lady Justice Cherere ordered them to pay a fine of 400,000 shillings each. But again, that did not happen, and occasioning the warrant of arrest that have happened today. Again, during that particular ruling on 30th, the court had ordered that the two pay a subsequent 50,000 shillings each for every month that they fail to remit the books of accounts as ordered by the courts there. So that has not happened. We are talking of a property which has 100 acres of land around Miwani here in Kisumu. We are talking of lands and estates. There are flats along Jogo Road in Nairobi, flats in Runda. So there's a host of properties that, as you've mentioned, they are totaling to 200 million shillings. And the two, that is the nephew, Kenneth and Omondi, want to be incorporated as part of the inheritance to be part of the list of inheritance, as I've mentioned there, Olive. And therefore, they went to court in 2010. The case has been sort of dead for a while, but it was resuscitated last year. And the two, Nyong'o and his sister, have now been found contemptuous of court, and those orders made. Olive.
Thank you, Oko Kusa. And now we cross over to Ruiru, where President Uhuru Kenyatta has commissioned the Bidco Industrial Park. Presently speaking is Raila Odinga. Let's listen in.
All those companies, there were 4, we had lifted the ban and told our people to go and continue buying the products manufactured by those companies. Vimal and I have been friends for a long time. And the old man, of course, go back a long time, he was also a friend of our family. What they have done here is a great thing, because this is creating employment for many people. I'm told that about 10,000 people are going to be employed here. And this is the direction that we want to go. I will confine my remarks only to infrastructure. Your Excellency, infrastructure is very important for manufacturing. That manufactured products need to reach the customers as quickly and as cheaply as possible. I have been told that this company now exports to the Middle East and to Mauritius, Madagascar, and so on. Their biggest complaint is the freight costs of the goods from here down to Mombasa. And they're saying that SGR costs are slightly higher than those charged by the road transporters. And they're saying that instead of the wagons going back to Mombasa empty, that if they reduce the rate a little bit, they would prefer to use the SGR, and that would help, in fact, in promoting their exports. The other thing, Your Excellency, that we wanted to talk about is the cost of energy in our country. Energy is very important in attracting investors in the field of industry. Investors will come in an area where there is abundance of energy, where the production and the consumption are not at par, but where there's sufficient excess so that they know that there will be sufficient energy when they bring their plants into the country. At the moment, the least cost power plant that we are operating does not inspire confidence in investors. Secondly, we need to reduce our costs. We are still at 14 or 16. We need to come to 7 cents per unit and below. That will be very attractive for investors in our country. Those, Your Excellency, are the only issues that I wanted to talk about here going forward. But I want to say that we are committed to bringing the people of this country together so that we can work to develop this country, so that we can be able to realize the Kenyan dream as coined by the founding fathers of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Right Honorable Raila Odinga, former Prime Minister. Your Excellency, I don't want to anticipate your speech, but I know many of the issues you have already addressed. Actually, the settlement of the power tariffs that is going to bring power down is just waiting to be settled by the Finance Minister. VAT, that was a major issue, you brought it down from 6 to 2%. Your Excellency, I don't want to take the words out of your mouth, but I'm excited by the transformation you have already brought. You have addressed the key challenges that we are facing, industrialists and business. But I'm sure, from what I know, you are continuing to look at them and continue improving. And indeed, they are acknowledging that this year, we have addressed the competitive issues, and you are continuing to address. So with those remarks, I want now to take this opportunity to invite the Deputy President to invite you to address this gathering, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, ministers present, the Governor of Kiambu, members of Parliament, Mzee Bid Shah and the Shah family and the Bidco fraternity. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Your Excellency, 7 years ago, you began the journey of the transformation of our nation. And you targeted specifically infrastructure as a major component that would enable industry and manufacturing to take off. Today, Your Excellency, we have the SGR and we have a huge road infrastructure in our nation. When I had a chat with Vimal this morning, he was talking to me about the Eastern Bypass. And I was telling him that already, Your Excellency, you have instructed for the dualing of the Eastern Bypass so that goods and services from industry in this area can find their way to the SGR and to exit from here in a much more faster and cost-efficient manner. Your Excellency, many of the people who are hired in this facility, when I was talking to the CEO, many of them are graduates from our TVETs. Almost 90% of the people hired in this manufacturing facility come from our TVETs. And I was informing them that you have already facilitated the construction of a technical training college right here in Ruiru. And there will be a collaboration between this facility and the TVET that is coming up in Ruiru so that we can train personnel that will be industry and job market ready for them to take up jobs in these facilities. Your Excellency, this facility you launch here today is another milestone in your journey to industrialize this nation. When you identified the Big Four and centralized it around manufacturing, it was this kind of transformation that you had in mind. Your Excellency, we are very proud as members of your team to work with you as you personally take charge of the public-private partnership and discussion that has facilitated this kind of investment by the private sector on a factory like this. This factory, Your Excellency, creates value, value adds, creates jobs, adds entrepreneurs and business people, and finally creates wealth that eliminates poverty in our nation. And therefore, Your Excellency, a big congratulations to the Bidco family for this great investment. With those few remarks, it's now my humble duty to request His Excellency the President to make his remarks and officially inaugurate this facility. Your Excellency, sir.
Asante, asante, twashukuru William. Tuketi, nashukuru. Please be seated. Thank you very much. Governor wa kaunti ya Kiambu na viongozi wa Kiambu, Mzee Bwana Shah, ambaye ndiye founder wa kampuni hii na wakurugenzi wenzake, wafanyikazi wote wa hapa, hamjambo nyote? Hamjambo tena? Kwani hamna furaha jameni? Na job imepatikana? Let me begin by saying that I am indeed delighted to preside over the official opening of the Bidco Industrial Park. We all note with satisfaction that this park is not only modern, but it is also energy efficient, and it will significantly enhance our local manufacturing sector. Let me, as I have already done, but repeat again, opportunity to congratulate you, Mzee, and indeed the entire Bidco Africa group for this very, very visible expression of confidence in Kenya's investment climate. Indeed, from the very first investment made by the Bidco Group 34 years ago in 1985, to today as we open this ultra-modern facility, this is complete evidence of the highest demonstration of patriotism and faith in the country's economic prospects by the Bidco Group. Asanteni sana, pongezi. So today also marks a significant milestone towards the realization of my administration's aspirations to grow the contribution of our manufacturing sector to the national cake from its current 8.4% to 15% over the medium term. Expansion of our manufacturing sector undoubtedly holds the key to the realization of job creation, in particular for our youth. I am, in this respect, very impressed that this facility has already created 1,000 direct jobs, 5,000 indirect jobs through the Bidco distribution channel, and as the company grows, we'll hire a lot more of our young Kenyans to work here. What pleases me most, actually, is that through contract farming, the Bidco Group has engaged over 35,000 farmers from across the country who supply them with soya, sunflower produce, and many other products. And this, in essence, is what we're trying to achieve as a nation. A manufacturing sector that links other product sectors of our economy into the manufacturing value chain. This investment by Bidco Africa Group would not have been possible without the right conditions being in place, and certainly not without a good measure of trust by the investors. Even the issues that remain as outstanding challenges to business, I promise today it will be resolved by the government. We shall resolve all of them. And let me assure you that this faith is not misplaced. As a government, we remain committed to do even more to improve the investment climate. Our focus is on implementing more business-friendly policies designed to reduce the manufacturing cost in Kenya and thereby enhance our manufacturing sector's global competitiveness. These policies are being implemented with a single-minded desire for results. We, as many may already know, are in this respect using a whole-of-government approach under the framework of National Development and Implementation Committee that I put in place at the beginning of this year and that meets every week. Through this framework, we have addressed various impediments that have been a hindrance to the sustained growth of our local manufacturing base. And amongst these challenges are issues such as counterfeit and illicit goods, dumping, VAT refunds, taxation policies on manufacturing, government pending payments, energy costs, port and transport logistic delays, bureaucratic red tape, corruption, multiplicity of regulatory fees and levies, market access for locally made goods, amongst many other concerns. Allow me to expound very briefly on some of the interventions that have been spearheaded by my administration. On the matter of transport and logistics delay, I have recently put in place measures to reduce the number of regulators operating in our ports of entry and the inland container depots. This has already seen an immediate reduction in the turnaround time for clearance of imported goods. In the same vein, the extension of the standard gauge railway line to Naivasha will be complete in a matter of months, and the revitalization of Kisumu Port is firmly on track. These investments, when complete, will ease the movement of cargo both within the country and the region. And I take note of what you have said, Mheshimiwa Raila, and we will see if we can reduce costs slightly to encourage more people to use outward bound cargo on the SGR. With regard to the cost of energy, the government has continued to invest in the diversification of the national energy mix, leaning heavily in favor of renewables like wind, geothermal, solar, all of which have lower feed-in tariffs than thermal energy. This year alone, we have seen the injection of over 310 renewable energy onto our grid. In addition to this, my administration has commenced the implementation of a 30% reduction in electricity cost rebate for manufacturers. This itapunguza tena bei ya stima. Hiyo mnasema. We are also having taken on special requests for further rebates to be extended to the textile and steel mill subsectors. These, I want to assure you, will be enacted before the end of this year. With respect to taxation policy matters, my administration has started to address the huge amounts of accumulated VAT refunds. As of this morning, the amount of Kenya shillings 14.7 billion has been refunded to affected businesses, while another 24.6 billion is currently in the process of verification by the Kenya Revenue Authority. In addition, my administration has proposed, as part of the Finance Bill 2019, the reduction of VAT withholding tax from 6% to 2%. My administration has also, in the last month, released in excess of Kenya shillings 50 billion towards addressing the hereto large pending payments that have accumulated at both the national and county government levels. These amounts include payments to local manufacturers and suppliers, most of whom are SMEs that form the bedrock of our economy. Our market access for locally manufactured products, my administration has put in place a list of products that will receive exclusive preference through purchase by all ministries and state departments. First to receive this preferential treatment of government procurement are manufacturers of locally assembled motor vehicles. We have also commenced the implementation of the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya policy and local content policy, all of which are expected to expand the local market for goods and services manufactured here in Kenya. On the matters relating to counterfeit, illicit goods and dumping, you will note that under the stewardship of the multi-agency task force, our relentless war against these vices has started to bear fruit across the entire spectrum of the local manufacturing sector, including the edible oils industry, where Bidco Africa is one of the strongest players. All these industries, and I think Vimal, you can confirm this, have in the last 6 months witnessed increased sales occasioned by the steady elimination of competing counterfeit products from the Kenyan market. Na hiyo sasa uandike hao na uongeze kazi. Hey. Having given this very brief insight into the measures that my administration has undertaken to improve the business environment, it is also instructive to note the design and substance of these interventions by the government are a result of my administration's open door policy with the business community. Many here will attest to the hours that we have spent together under my chairmanship with captains of industry and government policymakers, jointly troubleshooting and finding common solutions for the challenges that have for so many years afflicted the competitiveness of our manufacturing sector. It is therefore quite gratifying to see tangible commitments coming through from the private sector in the form of manufacturing concerns such as the facilities that we have commissioned here today. This, together with other manufacturing entities that have been commissioned over the last few months, and many more, as Minister Munya has said, that are coming online in the next couple of months, are indeed early signs of the success we are bound to make in the realization of the Big Four agenda if we continue to work together. Whereas my administration continues to invest aggressively towards addressing the structure deficit so as to improve the business environment, the huge financial outlay required cannot be met exclusively by the state. And it is for this reason that my government has put in place the necessary incentives for the development of the special economic zones and industrial parks by the private sector. So to see BIDCO Africa heeding this clarion call and developing a world-class industrial park that will go a long way towards meeting the needs of investors, especially in the manufacturing sector, is indeed a grateful sight to see. I want to conclude by once again congratulating the BIDCO Africa Group for making this impressive flagship investment in Kenya, and more importantly, for proudly carrying the Kenya flag high within the East African region while seeking to expand your business operations into new territories within our common market. Pongezi na hongera sana. Wenzangu, leo ni siku ya furaha kwa sababu tuko hapa kuanzisha kiwanda ambacho wenzetu wa BIDCO wameweka pesa zao na za wawekezaji wengine hata kutoka nchi za nje, tuje tuweze kuwa na hii viwanda ambavyo vitatusaidia kupanua uchumi wetu na pia kuhakikisha ya kwamba nafasi za kazi zimepatikana haswa kwa vijana wa taifa hili letu la Kenya. Mambo haya ndiyo ya muhimu, na mambo haya haiwezekani bila kuwa na nchi ambaye iko na amani, bila kuwa na nchi ambaye iko na umoja, bila kuwa na viongozi ambao wako tayari kufanya kazi pamoja kwa niaba ya wananchi ambao Mwenyezi Mungu ametupatia nafasi ya kuwaongoza. Mimi nataka kuwashukuru kila mmoja ambaye amehusika kutufikisha pahali ambapo tuko hapa leo, kwa kutusaidia kuweka amani kwa taifa letu, kulete Wakenya pamoja, ndio wafanyabiashara na wawekezaji wengine wawe na nafasi ya kuwa na environment ambaye inawezesha viwanda kama hii tumefungua leo kufanyika. Na vile mmesikia Waziri Munya hapa akisema, sio kiwanda hii peke yake, tuko na zaidi ya viwanda 40 ambaye zimekamilika au ziko karibu kukamilika, viwanda mpya ambazo ni wawekezaji kutoka nchi mbalimbali. Na kwa sababu ya yale wameona sisi kama Wakenya tukiyatekeleza, haswa ujenzi wa barabara, kupanua mambo ya kawi na kuongeza stima ambaye inatembea kwa grid na kustabilize, na pia amani ya kisiasa ambaye iko. Hizo viwanda vikikamilika zote, hiyo ni kazi pia kwa vijana wetu. Hiyo ni kuhakikisha tumeanza safari ya kumaliza umaskini katika taifa letu. Pia kama serikali yenu tumeweka pesa pia kufufua viwanda ambavyo hapo awali vilikuwa vimefungwa kwa sababu mambo mengine na watu kukosa nidhamu ya kutekeleza ile kazi ambayo walikuwa wamepewa. Juzi mlituona Eldoret tukifungua kiwanda cha Rivertex huko. Hapo awali tulikuwa Thika tukifungua kiwanda hapo ya kuunganisha magari, na tumesema kama serikali hicho kiwanda ambacho kiko Thika, hiyo kiwanda ambacho iko Nairobi na zingine ambazo ziko Mombasa, gari zote za serikali ambazo zinatumiwa katika taifa letu la Kenya, hakuna gari ingine isipokuwa zile ambazo zinaundwa hapa katika taifa letu la Kenya. Hiyo ndio kuhakikisha ya kwamba vijana wetu wamepata kazi. Hata mimi sijui nitaingia hiyo, lakini tutafika tu, lakini wote, sisi wote lazima tutafanya namna hiyo, kwa sababu hiyo ndio njia ya kuhakikisha vijana wamepata kazi. Mambo ya computers, tuko na kiwanda kule Eldoret ambaye inaunda computers, na hapa pia Juja tuko na kiwanda ambaye inaunda computers. Hakuna kompyuta ya serikali ambaye itanunuliwa bila zile zinatengenezwa katika hivi viwanda vyetu. Mwezi wa April mwaka ujao tutafungua pia kiwanda ya kutengeneza televisions, mambo ya mobile phones kule Dedan Kimathi University kule Nyeri. Pia tuwe tunanunua hata simu zile tunatumia, TV ambazo tunaangalia, tununue zetu, sio kugojea zile zinatoka nje za nje, na ndio hii vijana wetu wapate kazi. Hii ndio njia pekee ya kumaliza umaskini katika taifa letu la Kenya. Na mimi nawaomba Wakenya wote, tafadhali, njooni tuungane. Njooni tufanye kazi pamoja. Njooni tupambane na ufisadi na tuhakikishe ya kwamba pesa za umma, kodi ambaye tunaiokota kwa niaba ya Wakenya, itumike kuhakikisha ya kwamba tumeimarisha maisha ya wananchi wenzetu. Sio tu kila saa ni siasa. Uongozi utakuja na Mungu ndio anapatiana uongozi, na uchaguzi utakuja na utaisha. Kenya haiendi pahali wenzangu. Serikali ya Kenya bado itakuwa. Kwa hivyo hakuna haja ya kila saa kuwa tunachochea wananchi wa Kenya kila saa siasa. Hakuna, tufanye kazi. Ule atachaguliwa, ni wagadhuru gainiwe huyu. Me, I don't mind. Lakini hii saa kila saa kuambiwa sasa ni wakati ya kazi. Au mnasemaje wenzangu? Mnakubaliana na mimi wenzangu? Mwambie viongozi tunataka kazi. Tunataka watu wapatane. Tunataka watu washirikiane pamoja. Tuinue hali ya maisha ya Wakenya. Na ndio tukizeeka huko tuseme yale ambayo tulifanya, tulibadilisha sura, tulibadilisha maisha ya Wakenya, na tukawacha nchi ambayo iko na amani, uhuru na maendeleo, na umaskini umeisha. Leo asubuhi nilikutana na warembo wengine ambao nasikia walikuwa wameshindana Kenya mzima, ni mrembo gani atakuwa rais wa kwanza. Inaitwa Mrs. President au Madam President? Mrs. President. Madam President. So nikawaambia, walikuja kunihoji leo kuniuliza mimi maswali, mimi nikajibu ile niliweza kujibu. Alafu nikawaambia kwa sababu mnataka kuwa marais wa nchi, njooni muone kazi kidogo kidogo ile rais anafanya. So ningependa wakuje hapa muwaone na wajitambulishe. Vile nawaambia, mnajuaje nani rais? Mungu pekee ndio anajua. So kwa hivyo ningependa kwanza niite moja anaitwa Nera Okech kutoka Homa Bay. Njoo usalimia watu.
Habari zenu wa Kenya wenzangu. Mimi ni rais Mkenya kutoka Homa Bay County. Nimefurahi.
President Uhuru Kenyatta speaking at the commissioning of the Bidco Industrial Park in Ruiru. He's touched mainly on manufacturing, but steered clear of, or rather made no direct mention of the criminal charges facing his former National Treasury CS Henry Rotich. He has spoken on 2022 succession politics, saying again that the focus should be on development. And when speaking on manufacturing, I wonder if he's driven around in a vehicle assembled in Kenya. And he's gone on to introduce a contestant for Mrs. Kenya, but not, as I said before, touched on the criminal charges facing his former Treasury CS Henry Rotich. Now, speaking of criminal charges, former Ugenya Member of Parliament Christopher Karan and his 3 co-accused persons have been released on a cash bail of 200,000 shillings or an alternative bond of 1 million shillings. Karan denied the charges against him before Mombasa Principal Magistrate Edgar Kagoni. They're accused of colluding to prepare and use fake documents, as well as presenting false statements before the High Court in Kisumu to challenge an election petition number 1 of 2017. The court ordered the suspects to deposit their travel documents after the prosecution raised fears that they could be a flight risk. The matter will be mentioned on the 5th of next month. Sticking with criminal charges, Kenyan brothers Ibrahim and Baktash Akasha will in the next few hours know their fate when a U.S. court sentences the two after they were found guilty of drug trafficking. The brothers pleaded guilty last October to several violations of U.S. drug laws, including a conspiracy to smuggle 99 kilograms of heroin and 2 kilograms of meth to the United States.
29-year-old Ibrahim Akasha will be sentenced this Thursday in a New York City court as his elder brother, 42-year-old Baktash Akasha, awaits his sentencing slated for tomorrow, Friday. The sentencing of the self-confessed drug trafficker Baktash Akasha had been postponed to allow prosecution to present evidence linking him to the murder of a drug dealer in South Africa. U.S. Judge Victor Marrero, who has been presiding over the Akasha case in a federal court in New York, rescheduled the sentencing that had been set for April 19, 2019.
At the same time, holding your ID.
The brothers were extradited to the U.S. in January 2017 after their arrests in Kenya. The trial began in October 29, 2018, when U.S. lawyers claimed that an associate of the Akashas had a contract killer who murdered a member of a rival gang ring in Mombasa in 2014. The Akasha associate is said to have arranged for the killing of a man identified only as Pinky, who was referred to in court papers as Cooperating Witness 1 CW1. Pinky was shot 32 times in Mombasa. During their plea taking in October, the brothers also admitted to obstructing justice by systematically bribing Kenyan police officers, judges, and the prosecutor in an attempt to prevent their extradition to the U.S. The brothers are facing prison terms of between 10 years to life with no possibility of parole. In the plea deal, they each may be fined between 5 million to 10 million Kenya shillings. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
The National Assembly is this afternoon expected to debate and likely pass the new version of the Division of Revenue Bill. The bill has pegged the shareable revenue to counties at 316 billion shillings. Senators allocated 335 billion shillings to the counties in their new version of the bill.
The rift between the National Assembly and the Senate could only grow wider. The National Assembly will today debate and pass its new version of the Division of Revenue Bill that allocates 316 billion shillings to the counties.
As I move the motion.
This is after the Senate also passed and forwarded to the National Assembly their version of the Division of Revenue Bill on Tuesday.
The report by the Departmental Committee.
Through a statement published in the national dailies, the National Assembly argues that the 316 billion shillings represents 30.5% of the latest audited revenues, which is above the constitutional minimum of 15%. The Commission of Revenue Allocation (CRA) has proposed that counties to be given 335 billion shillings. The National Assembly says the difference emanates from the different approaches used to compute the county government's equitable share of revenue and the use of a different revenue adjustment factor. The ongoing stalemate has put several counties at the risk of total shutdown due to lack of funds. The Supreme Court had given the two houses of parliament by next Wednesday to resolve the matter, failure to which the hearing and determination of the case will proceed. Vincent Odur, NTV.
If you're like me, then you could use some good news. Cuisine and music lovers have a chance to enjoy the two as the International Delicious Food and Music Festival comes to Kenya for the first time. The organizers announced a partnership with the Nation Media Group today. Editorial Director Mutuma Matthew stated that the Nation Media Group looks forward to many years of a productive relationship. The South African-based company say that the event will be a huge attraction for lovers of food and music.
Now, this partnership is one of the many unique events that the Nation Media Group is venturing into as part of its strategy to grow its content business beyond news and to create value for our different stakeholders.
The idea is to just be able to create the experience and expand it into the rest of the continent, beginning with Kenya. I think you should also definitely look out for the delicious music pop-up sort of events.
Speaking of food and drink, Kenya's leading manufacturers and distributors of alcoholic beverages under the aegis of the Alcohol Beverages Association of Kenya, ABAC, has urged retailers to adhere to the recommended retail prices. Kenya Revenue Authority effected a 5.17% annual inflation tax adjustment on excise duty charged on the products. Implementation of the inflation tax adjustment, which was first instituted last year, saw some manufacturers increase product prices marginally to accommodate the new realities. According to ABAC, others have used the tax implementation to inflate the prices of beverages. They have accused the retailers of extorting customers and that there is a need for regulation. Back to Ruiru, where President Uhuru Kenyatta is once again speaking.
Kwenda mpaka Isiolo na ndio tuweze kufungua taifa letu, wa Kenya waweze kufanya biashara zao na kutembea kwa bei ya nafuu, kwa sababu Kenya ni yetu sisi wote. Kwa hayo machache na mengi, nasema Mungu awabariki, Mungu awalinde, Mungu atuongoze, tuendelee kujenga taifa letu. Asanteni sana.
Asante Mheshimiwa Rais. Tafadhali Bidco Africa Company wangependa kukupa zawadi. Na ni zawadi ambayo utaweza kukabidhiwa rasmi na mwenyekiti wa kampuni.
From Ruiru to news from across Kenya's borders, the mayor of Mogadishu is to be flown to Turkey for treatment, along with several other government officials that were injured in Wednesday's suicide attack. Officials say that the mayor, Abdirahman Umar Osman, is still unconscious after the attack. 6 government officials, 5 men and 1 woman, died in the suicide attack. A female suicide bomber detonated explosives strapped to her waist inside of the mayor's office during a meeting hoping to target the new UN Special Envoy to Somali, James Swan, who had attended the meeting earlier in the day with Osman. It still remains unclear how the bomber managed to enter the heavily guarded building. In the last 2 weeks, such attacks have intensified, with experts linking the forthcoming elections to the attacks. The ruling Sudanese army has arrested members of the former governing National Congress Party. Sudan's military says it had arrested several high-ranking officers and senior members of the NCP over a failed coup attempt. Those detained include the former Vice President Bakri Hassan Sali, a foreign minister, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the head of the Armored Brigade, all who had served under the deposed President Omar al-Bashir. It is not clear exactly when the coup attempt happened, but the authorities could be referring to one that allegedly took place earlier this month. Protesters took to the streets of central London to demonstrate against Boris Johnson, who took over from Theresa May as the British Prime Minister. The protests came as Johnson gave key roles to leading Brexiteers. Johnson sacked many members of the previous cabinet formed by the former Prime Minister. Members of the new cabinet arrived at 10 Downing Street as uniformed police locked down the area for security purposes. The former London mayor has pledged to break the political deadlock that has left Britain in crisis and forced his predecessor May to delay Brexit twice. I now hand you over to Brian Otwal for the sports news.
Thank you so much, Olive. Let's have a look at the latest in sports and the national men's basketball team. The Kenya Morans' fairy tale run at the inaugural International Basketball Federation FIBA Afro-Chan tournament in Mali continued after they earned a dramatic 82-76 overtime win against Tunisia to move into the semi-finals. Tunisia won the first quarter 20.
Wake up to nothing but the best in news, conversation starters, and hard-hitting interviews that keep you informed for the day ahead.
Happened early, 6 on the nose. These people don't sleep. Fix first the data protection law, then we come up with the number.
Exactly my question to CS Joe Mushero.
Welcome to Living with Us. I'm your host, Sharon Mundia. Boy, have you missed out.
Stop your wheel, game done.
Thank you for joining us on NTV today.
We have our reporters in different locations.
NTV is right here to bring you everything from the beginning to the end.
Hii ni NTV Sasa.
Kuna mambo mengi sana ambayo yanafanyika.
Sasa ni kumtuliza. Hii inaitwa sensory integration.
We will fly Kenya's flag at the Tokyo 2020 Games that allowances will be paid in timely fashion. The assurance was given by Sports Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed, who was speaking during an event hosted by the National Olympic Committee of Kenya (NOC) last night in Nairobi to mark 1 year to the Games in Tokyo.
Supervise the management of this process to ensure that logistical details are addressed seamlessly without any problems to allow athletes to only focus on the Games. The National Olympic Committee, ladies and gentlemen, of our country, of Kenya, will provide monthly updates regarding the state of preparations and will make sure that these monthly updates are available to the country at large. The upcoming All Africa Games in Rabat, Morocco, are a crucial step towards the Olympics, and I think you've had previous speakers address that. Today, I direct the officers in the ministry, in conjunction with NOC Kenya and the Kenya National Sports Council, to put Team Kenya in camp immediately after the All Africa Games and the World Championships to focus on the preparations of the Games.
And Cameroon's President Paul Biya has offered the country's national women's volleyball team 34.7 million shillings for their triumph at the 2019 Women's African Nations Championship. In addition, the Cameroon team was also decorated with Medal of Commanders of the Order of Sport. Up in 2017 have received no such recognition from the Kenyan government despite several pleas from the girls to have their allowances from their participation in the previous tournaments settled. Malkia Strikers only got a congratulatory message on Twitter from the country's Sports Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed after the final in Egypt 10 days ago.
Ile support ya ile timu bado mpaka wa leo mimi naweza sema ni duni. Wale wasichana hawapei ile attention inatakikana kupewa timu ambayo inaenda kuwakilisha nchi Kwa nini nasema vile? Udhamini wake ile wa National Oil wanajaribu kweli, lakini mahitaji ya ile timu si ya National Oil peke yake. Ile ni timu ambayo inaakilisha serikali kuu, inaakilisha the 40 million people. Kwa hivyo matayarisho yake na morali yake inatakikana pati kubwa yake itoke kwa serikali.
And Manchester United will face their toughest pre-season opponents yet when they take...
Kuna mengi ambayo yanaendelea kujiri katika maeneo tofauti.
Tunavyoelewa wanasema nini? Vimeundwa.
NTV in the morning. All you need to know to start your day.
Nilizae kama ajalema.
Serikali ileta dawa gani?
It's almost a year, nothing has been done. I just need some form of information.
Dr. Mugo Wairimu first hit the headlines when a video clip showing him raping an unconscious female patient in his clinic.
Wale wanaohusika pia wanajulikana lakini hawashikwi.
With the puzzle surrounding the sugar saga yet to be cleared.
How many times were you sexually abused?
Like 3 times.
How was a convicted child molester allowed to set up a children's home in the country?
NTV News. Bold, balanced, authoritative.
Where are we headed as a country?
Every time we make a step forward, we do 2 backwards.
Any fool with huge amounts of money can be president of this country. It is no longer about service.
Why can't we move these people out and find somebody who can make the right decision for the country?
You're the experts, you can tell me.
We have to change the way we arrive at our leaders. We have to.
Organized crime, terrorism.
Thank you, Twal, and that's all I had as well. And that's it for NTV at 1. NTV Alasiri coming your way at 4 p.m.
This